Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Niners News with 49ers Hive. Make sure you hit subscribe and hit the bell so you get notifications for all of our videos. Follow us on Twitter at 49ers Hive, and you can follow me at Zach Hernan. My Twitter tag is below. As always, enjoy my good friend Matt. Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. You guys can follow me at Ataxis, ATAX1S. And like Zach said, keep it here locked in for the best content that we can bring you.
Yes, sir. And let's get right into it. Today, we will be talking about Brandon Aiyuk. Do you think that he struggles with physicality when it comes to running routes and such? Do you think that that will really, really affect his game once he gets to the NFL where it's bigger, stronger, faster?
I think that he has a problem that a lot of college receivers have in that press man is kind of dying in the college game. A lot of these top guys haven't faced it. That was the thing with CeeDee Lamb in the Big 12 where they play absolutely zero defense. Even Jerry Jeudy at times, there are questions about, hey, can he get off a press? Can he, not get knocked off his route tree easily? What's going on? And I think the same thing is true with Brandon Aiyuk. And the thing about him is beyond that, as far as playing to contact, that's not a concern. That physicality isn't a concern. Getting off of the line in press coverage, that's remained to be seen, but that's something that can be coached. As far as speed and being able to, break through tackles and fight for yards, the kid has juice, so I'm not worried about that. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that, like you said, it's all kind of minor things that can be coached. I don't think that there's any giant red flag when it comes to his physicality or lack of, I should say. I think you said it earlier. He kind of reminds you of a Deebo Samuel type of guy, especially, when it comes to having the ball in his hands and kind of making plays. Do you think that he's going to be able to really open up this offense? I was watching some of his tape earlier, and man, that guy gets over the top and it's game over. Will the 49ers be able to see some of that this year?
I think so. He does profile to me a little bit like Debo, and then a little bit like a lot of people are saying Pierre Garçon, which I also see. I think he's a little bit faster than Pierre Garçon, though. The thing about him is his wingspan is ridiculous for somebody his height. You're talking about the 5'11" and 5'8" guy at the combine with the wingspan of a dude who's 6'8", which is just kind of ridiculous. So he's going to be able to reach out, pluck balls. Sometimes Jimmy has gotten a little loose with those balls. They've gotten, pardon the phrasing, but Jimmy has gotten a little bit loose with his throws and some have sailed, and being able to pluck that out of the sky with those long arms is going to be to a benefit. As for opening the offense up, you want to see it, but at the same time, there's a part of me, because going back to the draft, Kyle had said, Brandon Aiyuk, we had him right there with CeeDee Lamb, as one of those guys that was just, one of those players. And I think that's a little bit of an overstatement. If you ask me, I think that was a little bit of smoke. That was Kyle justifying trading back up 6 spots and using the 4th round pick that they got, sliding back in the draft, 4th or 5th, whichever it was, to go get Brandon Aiyuk, who was on most people, including my board, was in that second tier wide receiver class. He's a good player, and he, went around the spot that I thought he would go, especially when you consider that the Vikings took Justin Jefferson just a couple picks before. But to say that he was, on par with CeeDee Lamb, I think that's a little bit of Kyle being a gamesman and wanting to welcome the new guy. But that doesn't mean that Aiyuk can't come in and be a contributor right away. So depending on coaching, depending on, how everything shakes out with off-season workouts, considering the state of the country and the pandemic that we're in, being able to get him in and learn the playbook, which is complicated, and getting him out there to improve upon the things that he doesn't do well, that's critical in him being able to slot across from Deebo Samuel, who is in all likelihood going to be the number 1 receiver for the 49ers.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I spoke with Al Sacco of 4th and 9 and 49ers Web Zone. Make sure you guys check out that video if you haven't already. And I kind of asked him if he felt that the 49ers were blowing smoke when they said that he was their number 1 receiver. And he kind of thought the same thing. He was saying that that might not have been the case, but they're not going to say, no, right. Actually, he was our number 3rd or 4th wide receiver. So I think that there are certain traits that Kyle Shanahan covets.
Definitely.
And I think Brandon Aiyuk does have a lot of those traits. So maybe in a sense, he was the best fitting wide receiver, but that's not necessarily the most talented wide receiver. So I can
Right.
understand what they meant, but
Yeah,
not necessarily speaking
and I think
100%
that
facts. Go ahead.
yeah, and I think that comes with, you know, the minute that they passed on wide receiver for Javon Kinlaw, they had to know that those top tier receivers were not going to make it to him. That Judy was probably going to Denver, which everybody called as soon as the 49ers passed on him. Everybody knew he was going to Denver. And then CeeDee Lamb ended up going to Dallas at 17, but he wasn't going to, if he was somehow miraculously there at, 22, I think the Vikings picked, he wasn't getting past Minnesota. So they had to know that they were going to pick a second tier wide receiver at the back end of the first round. And I think that, when Kyle says, oh, he was right up there on our board, maybe he was the top of their second tier wide receiver list. But I don't think that he was up there with, the supposed wide receiver ones of the class.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that 100%. Now, do you think that not getting a guy like CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy, who were both there at 14 when the 49ers picked, and instead getting a guy like Brandon Aiyuk, do you think that's going to hurt kind of Jimmy Garoppolo in the sense of the continued narrative that he's not, a great quarterback? And if the 49ers did get a guy like Lamb or Jeudy, it would help him out getting that number one absolute target. Do you think Aiyuk is not going to be able to do that and in fact hurt Jimmy Garoppolo's continued growth?
I don't think so. I think the people that like Jimmy. The ones that don't. And, the Stephen A. Smiths of the world are always going to be out there to, call him names and say he can't play and this and this and that. His teammates know. And I actually think in this case, by getting a guy who so many people thought was that second tier of wide receiver, if Jimmy can elevate his play this year and progress like we expect him to, being his second full year as a starter and actually getting in the game and playing, if he can do that with a guy that everybody thought wasn't at the top and was less than Jeudy and Lamb, I think that speaks more to Jimmy having improved rather than being a detriment to him.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. On the flip side, just like you did, if he's able to find success with Aiyuk, with Debo, he could kind of say, look, I've done this all without a number one true target, a number one guy on the outside who's going to go up, get all of 50-50 balls, take them all to the house. And that would just speak to his case more. I do believe in Jimmy Garoppolo. I know a lot of people don't. A lot of people aren't sold. It's kind of like a tired meme at this point. Well, your quarterback's Jimmy Garoppolo. It's like, look, Jimmy Garoppolo last year was essentially his first full year as a starter, coming off of a torn ACL. And I thought he played pretty well, all things considered. Now, when you get into draft season, it's almost like media analysts and scouts are like looking for things to pick at, to raise a red flag at. And I don't know if it's in an effort to kind of help a guy fall to where certain teams are, or if they're actually just trying to get clickbait or whatever it is. I forget which one of the offensive linemen it was this year, but there was a report that he liked cooking. And therefore he wasn't taking football seriously enough.
I think that might have been Mekhi Becton.
Yeah, I think
But
I think you're right.
They were concerned about his weight too.
Okay. Well, that's another thing.
Yeah.
That's understandable.
Well, I mean, those kind of go hand in hand. If you think a kid likes to cook too much, I mean, it's at another way of saying you think the kid's going to get fat. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things where, again, they said the same thing about Myles Garrett. Oh, he likes this stuff outside of football. Now, Myles Garrett not being a psycho, notwithstanding or whatever, but Myles Garrett is a beast. And it doesn't matter that he likes dinosaurs or he likes this and that. It matters what you do for the time that you're dedicating to the team. What you do in your own time is whatever, but when you step between those lines, do you produce on the field? Do you give it your all for your team? That's all that matters.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And when it comes to football, I mean, he's kind of continually grown wherever he went. He started off in junior college and then he went to Arizona State and he was, behind N'Keal Harry. And after Harry left, then he came in, he was the top spot for the Sun Devils. And he just kind of has continued growing wherever you go. And that's exactly what you want to see out of a guy going back to high school all the way up until the draft.
And by the way, I just want to say that speaking of N'Keal Harry, there were reports that N'Keal Harry was actually holding Aiyuk back because he was such a focal point of that offense. I can't remember where I heard it. I had heard it in some of the post draft analysis that somebody was saying it was either a coach or another player saying that Aiyuk was held back by how much the offense focused around N'Keal Harry. So his breakout this year was not a surprise to a lot of people. And you're right, he's continued wherever he's gone to get better. And some people aren't meant for the books, and that's okay. There's a lot of people don't do well because of the school system. It's not a one size fits all, and you can't punish a kid if he's working as hard as he can. It's not necessarily the results. It's more the effort that you put in. The results will come afterwards, and as long as he's working his hardest, like everybody believes that he will, there's no reason why this kid's not going to be special.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Harry holding him back, that would actually make a lot of sense. I didn't read those reports, but I could see that because he totally flourished as soon as he went to New England. So I could see that. I'm reading some of the Draft Network's scouting report
Mm-hmm.
negatives right now, and they list route definition and sharpness, his pad level and routes, and kind of a lack of variety when it comes to running a route tree.
Mm-hmm.
Are these all things that can be coached up, or are they red flags that need to be major concerns to be addressed?
I don't think that they're necessarily red flags. We talked earlier about him being a junior college kid and not having those years at Arizona State to learn those routes. That's something that comes with experience, and that comes with stuff that you can coach. And I think that Deebo Samuel, that was the same knock against him. He doesn't run crispy routes. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. He does is slants. All he does is slants. Yeah, he does slants, but there's reasons why it works. He's good at those things, and not everybody has to be, twinkle toes on the field. They don't have to be the phenomenal route runner that a guy like Jerry Jeudy is to necessarily be effective. You can coach those traits up, but there's as long as he can catch the ball, that's what matters. The proof is in the tape where he gets separation, he makes those catches, and then he's off to the races. He is a yak monster. So, you can run the best routes in the world, but if you're not catching the ball, who cares? It's just one of those things where work with the kid, improve Aiyuk wherever you can as far as route running goes, and then let his athleticism and his ability to create separation do the rest of the work.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that the 49ers, you saw what they were able to do with a guy like Deebo Samuel, who may have come out, a tad bit raw. They were able to take his strengths, really, really work them up. And he was, probably the number one rookie wide receiver last year. You can maybe make the case for DK or AJ Brown, but Deebo was really, really good. And he came on when it mattered most towards the end of the season. Do you think that the 49ers should be able to play up Aiyuk's strengths, or do you think that it's kind of going to be a challenge with him getting acclimated to the system? I know Kyle Shanahan's system's kind of known for being difficult to get. Do you think there's going to be a learning curve there?
There's going to be a learning curve, but as we've seen in each of the last 2 years in Kyle's offense, first with Dante Pettis, who for some reason fell off a cliff this year, and secondly, Deebo Samuel, that rookies do get opportunities in this offense, and it's about what you do with those opportunities. It's not going to be perfect. There are going to be times where you make mistakes. Maybe you drop a pass here or you run a wrong route there, but Kyle is very much a learn on the fly type of guy, and as long as you don't make the same mistake twice, you're going to stay out of his doghouse and be able to prove yourself over the long haul. So I fully expect Aiyuk to get his opportunities early. Maybe he won't start right away, like Deebo didn't really start right away, but over the course of the season, I would expect more packages, more plays, more snaps for Aiyuk as we go along.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And that's a good point with, looking back to Dante and Debo, how they were both able to kind of find success early on. Say what you will about Dante Pettis last season, but, their rookie seasons, they showed a lot of promise. And I'm extremely excited to see what a guy like Brandon Aiyuk brings to the table, first thing, because this offense is kind of miles ahead of where the offenses were with Dante Pettis started. Even last year when Debo started, they still needed to kind of find a groove. This year, they have an identity as a team, and I'm extremely excited to see what he can do. Real quick, what would you put an over-under as far as yards after the catch for Debo and Brandon Aiyuk combined?
Combined, oh my goodness. Yards after the catch, man. between the two of them, there's no reason why they can't have 1,000 yards after the catch.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to be interesting, man. I'm excited to see it. That's going
Absolutely.
to do it for us tonight, guys. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Niners News with 49ers Hive. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell so you stay on top of all things 49ers Hive related. We're going to do our best to bring you the best content on the platform. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram as well at 49ers Hive. We have separate giveaways going on there right now, so go and check them out. You can follow me on Twitter at Zach Hernan. Matt, any final words?
Yeah, I mean, during the draft, our live reaction show, we already had one lucky winner. We gave away a George Kittle jersey to one lucky winner, and we're going to have more coming. So be sure and hit the subscribe button, click the bell. We're always bringing you good content. So, we'll see you in the future. You can follow me at Ataxis, ATAX1S on Twitter. Follow 49ers Hive at all social media outlets, and we'll see you next time.